Hello, I'm ABX Toycat and welcome back to the second channel video. Today I have some more of Geography of Toycat for you all. It's Evan's favorite second channel series where I talk about geography and the world and stuff. And today I'm going to talk about a very particular corner of the world, the one I happen to be from, and that is the continent of Europe. Well, I'm not from the whole continent, but I'm from a country which is part of the continent of Europe. And I want to kind of talk about it today because you often hear, in the same way you might hear someone from here say like, oh, I'd love to visit America at some point. The opposite of that is even weirder because when you hear people from the other side of the world say like, oh, I'd love to visit Europe at some point, or oh, Europeans sure are crazy, or like, oh, European women are this or that. It's kind of a weird thing to say because Europe is such a vast place. It is a continent, and as a result of that, when you're saying Europe this or Europe that, you're referring to both Iceland, you're referring to the western edge of Kazakhstan, and everything in between as being one whole place, which is not the case at all, obviously. There's so many vast differences, and in today's video, I could go through like, oh yeah, there's these 51 countries, let's explain all of them. Rather than doing that, I figured I'd go through the vague regions of Europe, so you can at least understand, oh yeah, there's this region, there's that region, there's that region, there's that region, and kind of get a feel for where the differences are, and I guess as close to, plain out their terms as we can, so that you can be like, oh yeah, Western Europe, that's the bit that I like and have heard of, and the Baltics are pretty cool too, or whatever you want to be like. That's what I'm going to be going through in today's video. Hopefully you all do enjoy it. With that said though, let's get straight into it, because this is kind of a big topic, because again, there's 51 countries in Europe, there's like 61 languages I want to say, there's a lot of stuff to go through, but let's try and start with the first bit, which is the outer edges. Let's welcome the outside in, shall we? And basically the outer edges of Europe are Iceland, so this is the outer edge on like the northwest side. The southwest edge would be like Portugal. The southeast edge would be somewhere in the Caucasus region, like over here. It cuts through a little bit of Kazakhstan, and then the northwest edge is somewhere in Russia. So yeah, it's kind of like a box like that, because the definition of continent changes so much from continent to continent. It's kind of hard to say what is and what isn't. You can kind of get different definitions, but for the most part, some of Turkey's cut off through there, and yeah, there's your rough Europe right here. So let's show it with my mouse, just like this. You cut through Turkey, then you take the Caucasus anyway. You don't take Iran, you take a little bit of Kazakhstan, and then you call that Europe. That's Europe right there. That's great. And Greenland is not part of Europe for a lot of technical reasons, but because it is part of the country of Denmark, you can kind of consider it a European country. Again, it's weird, they're different, it's not really, but yeah, there's your edges of Europe, now you know. Let's first go through the, the transcontinental countries, the ones that are European countries, but mostly don't exist in Europe. So first of all, the most notable is Russia, right? So Russia, biggest country on Earth by landmass, like by a lot, it's giant. Look at the size of Russia, it's in Europe, it goes all the way through Asia, and it almost reaches North America. Big country is what I'm trying to say here. Also, pretty cold as it turns out. But yeah, some of Russia is inside Europe, including their capital Moscow. So now you know. As well as one of their second biggest cities, I think it is, St. Petersburg, both inside Europe. Next up, we've got Kazakhstan. Again, a little bit of it gets cut off by Europe because of our definition. So Kazakhstan, European country, technically. Not really, though. I mean, you can kind of count it as one. And then Turkey is the same deal, where only 3% of Turkey exists in Europe. This little part right here. In fact, Istanbul, one of the biggest cities, Turkey's biggest city, is cut off by, the Europe-Asia divide. So some of Turkey, Istanbul exists in Europe, and some exists in Asia. So yeah, this is kind of like the gateway to Asia, it's often called, and yeah, it's one of the biggest cities in Europe. Technically the biggest if you count the Asian side, which is where things get confusing. But yeah, there is Istanbul, right there, one of the other edge points of Europe, and also the third of the, the transcontinental countries. So now we're down to like 48 real European countries where they all exist there, or mostly exist there, and let's just get straight into it with, I guess, the one everyone's heard of, right? Because everyone has heard of Scandinavia. Everyone loves Scandinavian this or Scandinavian that. They're all friendly, they're lovely, they're very, I guess, wealthy relative to the rest of the world, and they're also very nice, and they speak English. It's all lovely, and everyone's heard of it, right? Well, I hope so. If you haven't heard of Scandinavia, then I don't know. But yeah, Scandinavia are these three countries right here: Sweden, Norway, and Denmark. It does not include Finland, even though Finland's like awkwardly hanging on to Norway and Sweden. That is a part of a separate definition called Fennoscandia, which no one really ever uses. But yeah, this peninsula as a whole is called the Fennoscandia Peninsula. No one ever calls it that though. There's Scandinavia right here, which is what you need to know. However, there's then a second definition called the Nordic countries, which includes Denmark, Norway, Sweden, but then Finland gets to join in on the fun. Again, Finland is kind of like, Sweden, Norway, and Denmark are very, very close and like countries. Finland's like that, but then an extra step removed, I'd say. So yeah, Finland becomes part of the Nordic country definition alongside Iceland, and these five are the super north. When you picture a Nord from Skyrim or whatever you want to do, that's kind of what they're called. And if you're curious as to why they're called Nordic or North, it's because I believe that's one of the Scandinavian words for north. The northern, it becomes northern. So yeah, they're northern countries. It's basically Northern Europe, but they're called the Nordic countries because Northern Europe can then contain the United Kingdom sometimes, and also then contain the Baltic states. So yeah, the Baltic states is the next easy one to go through. The Baltic states are these three right here. They used to be USSR republics. They really didn't want to be. The moment they could go free, they did. And there's three of them. There's Estonia, there's Latvia, and there's Lithuania. So these three right here, they're called the Baltics, and they're all kind of friends. Lithuania wants to be more friends of Poland and call themselves Central European. Estonia wants to be a Nordic country, but for the most part, you just need to bear in mind these three countries right here. They're all, Baltic, and they have lots of very close ties together, and they're kind of similar. Again, we're just trying to separate Europe into regions right here. So we got Scandinavia, Nordic countries, and then over here we've got the Baltics. So boom, that's like North Europe covered, besides the UK and the British Isles, which for now, let's just say British Isles are the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, which is this country right here that you have to go a whole video from because it's such a mess of stuff. But yeah, the United Kingdom right here, and then also there's Ireland. Those are called the British Isles. They're technically a part of Northern Europe, but depends on your definition. They're definitely part of Northwest Europe alongside Iceland. So there you go. There's your Northern Europe carrot. So let's go now, down from that to the west of Europe, because Western Europe is what I would really describe as like the Europe everyone visualizes and wants to visit for the most part, because Western Europe, it's generally kind of picked at the the Iron Curtain line, the line that was divided, for most of the Cold War, the fighting ground of that. Because yeah, if you look at Europe, for the most part, the Western Europe side is divided right down here, the Germany-Poland border. Because again, Poland was part of Warsaw Pact, and Germany, most of Germany anyway, was part of the whole NATO. I think, yeah, NATO. I guess it'd be. And basically, yeah. So Western Europe is most of this right here, includes Austria sometimes, whatever you want to do, but it kind of cuts across here. It's France, Germany, the UK, Spain, Portugal, Italy, etc. And these are generally the richer countries in Europe. They're also the ones that contain a lot of the bigger, well-known sites, such as Amsterdam, Berlin, Paris, Barcelona, all the pretty luxurious European cities, Rome, of course, and that's Western Europe right there. Again, it gets a bit more complex than that because there's also South Europe, which includes some of Western Europe. So South Europe is Spain, Italy, Greece, sometimes Portugal, sometimes the island states of like Malta over here. So I always lose Malta on the map, and here's Malta right here. Then, as well as the fact that we've got we've got South Europe, we got West, we got North, we got all that stuff covered. So is the rest just Eastern Europe? Well, sort of. Well, here's the thing, right? Because if you look at Europe on a map, you actually kind of get into the mess thing right here, because there's just a giant mess of countries right here. And the long story short on that is that they used to be very close together, and they split as recently as like 20, 30 years ago. So you generally kind of call this like Southeast Europe, and you call that East Europe. There's a lot of overlap, but let's just go straight into it with the Balkans right here. So, after you've sorted past that, you're like, okay, there's lots of countries here. The Balkans are anything in the, I guess, the Baltic? That's not it at all. But yeah, the Balkans are these countries right here. We got the Slovenia, we got Croatia, we got Bosnia, we got Serbia, we got Montenegro, and we got Macedonia, or the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia. Their name causes a whole bunch of controversy because Macedonia is a Greek thing, and basically, yeah, FYRMM, whatever you want to call it, we've got that country right here. These 6 countries are like former Yugoslav countries, and then once you combine in, these countries right here, you get the Balkans. So there's your Balkans. That's generally known as the, again, it seems rude to call something the less pleasant side of Europe, but that's where the war and the danger and all this stuff was most recently. One of the most recent wars in memory was the Kosovo War in 14 years ago. There's a lot of unpleasantness attached to this, but it is a very lovely place too. It's got most of the lovely sites. There's a beautiful lake in Slovenia. I forget what it's called. Beautiful lake in Slovenia somewhere, Lake Bled maybe. There's a beautiful lot of geography and beaches in Croatia. It's very well known for that. There's a lot of beautiful stuff going on here, as well as, by the way, my phone started ringing and I was like, stop trying to do geography to the internet. But yeah, it's got loads of beautiful stuff. It's got loads of beautiful culture, people, etc. But it has that kind of bad reputation of like, that's where bad stuff happened most recently. So yeah, once we've covered the Balkans, the Southeast Europe is like, again, it also includes this stuff. Then we've got Far Eastern Europe. So like Eastern Europe is generally just saying anything that was a former USSR state. So you got your Ukraine there, you got Moldova, which is the poorest country in Europe. Ukraine's actually the second poorest. Again, you might be like, why are you just calling them out being poor? Well, it's the kind of show you or explain to you the key difference between like a Moldova and a UK is way more than the difference between like a Mississippi and a California. It is on a whole nother level. It's different between like an African country and like Germany or something. It's that kind of level between Moldova and the UK. So or like Moldova and Spain, let's say, because I'm from the UK. So I don't want to use that as an example. But yeah, this is kind of the very destroyed part of Europe by communism. Communism did okay for certain countries, but it destroyed out certain other ones. And yeah, there are some examples you can see in Eastern Europe here. As well as that, we've got Belarus. Belarus is kind of known as like the part of, so again, Belarus is like one of those countries in Europe that's very, very unwilling to integrate with the rest of the West. You know, like Ukraine's kind of torn, but Belarus is firmly on the side of like Russia. And yeah, they're one of the only former USSR countries that are like that. We've got Moldova here, which is a split off of Romania. Lots of stuff to do with those two countries, and they're like, oh, come home, Moldova. And they're like, no. So yeah, that you got Romania, Moldova. Moldova has its own split off region, I believe, called Transnistria, which isn't officially recognized, but it is its whole own country too. Again, there's lots of issues there, but once we've gone through that, we've got just one more region to cover, two more regions to cover, which is Central Europe. So Central Europe is, again, what they all like to call themselves there. We've got the Czech Republic, Slovakia, Hungary, and Austria. Central Europe is kind of like not really east enough to be called East Europe, even though they were former USSR countries in some cases, but not really west enough to be called Western Europe. You know, you wouldn't call Slovakia Western Europe. So, yeah, Central Europe's what they generally call themselves, sometimes along with Slovenia. And, yeah, these are the countries right here. In particular, Czech Republic and Slovakia. And you probably don't know them by those names. You probably know them as Czechoslovakia because they used to be best friends. They had one of the nicest divorces between two countries, but that is Czech Republic and Slovakia. And then finally, I'm going through every European country today, but we're going to do this. Then finally, we've got the countries over here, which is the Caucasus region. So this is, again, it used to be USSR, so again, all those connotations. And also, they've got loads of breakaway regions. There's lots of stuff going on here, but there's 3 countries. You got Georgia, you got Armenia, you got Azerbaijan. So Azerbaijan, if you have played your video games, is where I think it's one of the more famous segments in Call of Duty 4. Georgia, I know, is very, very... It's probably the most visited out of all of these, and I know I can't even pronounce their capital, I'm sorry. But I know that's, again, an incredibly lovely place that lots of people recommend and stuff. If you want to go to somewhere that's kind of out there, but not all the way out there, Georgia is one of the places that's known for that. And yeah, long story short, Europe, big place. Lots of stuff going on. You can't really call Georgia and Azerbaijan the same places as you can call Portugal, as it just so turns out. And also, by the way, one more thing. I guess you can kind of count islands. There's really only like the UK and like you got Malta down there and you got Cyprus and you got those countries like that. But yeah, there's your vague regions of Europe. Now you know. You got your... To go very, very briefly through them again, so you're like, okay, this, that. You got your Scandinavia, which is like your, hey, I am from Scandinavia, and I am very friendly. You got, okay, we're doing horrendous accents to go with this. You got Western Europe, which is the Europe you probably picture with your Amsterdam, with your Paris, with your Frankfurt, and your Brussels, and your London. You got that in Western Europe. Then if you go to Southwest Europe, you get the kind of more conflict-ridden, but now, again, it's a lot better than it was at some point. You got this kind of side right here. You've got Eastern Europe, which is generally known as being poor. Again, I don't have like the correct term for like a country with less collective welfares, but the generally poorer side of Europe, which is over here, where things are a lot cheaper, but the country is doing slightly less well off. Then finally, we got the Caucasus, which is only part of Europe by technicality, because it's like all the way out there, but again, separate thing over there, ex-USSR countries. And then finally, you got the Baltics, who are just like, yeah, we love you, Europe, thank you for saving us, please don't hurt us, Russia. And maybe that's too much words from one video. Maybe you didn't understand any of that. And if that is the case, then I'll let you know that I got a new water bottle. So it's a stainless steel something. And I like it a lot better than the old one, because my old one would leak. And can totally recommend, if you need to drink a lot of water, like I do, because I talk so much and do the things with the water, that you should buy one of these, or just a water bottle in general. Because one, I mean, it kind of looks cool, but also like it retains the heat so well. Like this is still cold, even though I'm like sweating right now. So useful. Hope you all enjoyed the video. Make sure you check out the rest of the Geography with Toy Cat playlist. If you want to see videos that are much less short, do you want to see more videos like this about other parts of the world? Let me know. I don't know. Thank you very much for watching, though, and I'll see you all next time. Goodbye. I don't know where this... I need to set up like a hotkey for stop recording, because I know there is one, but I don't know what it is. So I'm going to try pressing F8 right now. That was not the hotkey. Okay, stop recording.